Welcome to Government Contracting Weekly, sponsored by AOC Key Solutions Incorporated. Government Contracting Weekly is the only television program devoted exclusively to the competitive and dynamic world of government contracting. A world where coming in second place is not an option, but where principle-centered winning is the only approach.
Good morning and welcome to Government Contracting Weekly. I'm Hilary Fordwich from Key Solutions. In today's show, we're going to focus on market intelligence as well as the channeling of the power of positive communications. Our first guest is Joyce Bosk, the President and CEO of Boscobel Marketing Communications, a company that focuses exclusively on the government contracting community. After Joyce, I will once again sit down with Gary Loyd, the CEO of Centurion Research Solutions, who, as our regular viewer knows, is a valued content partner with Government Contracting Weekly. Gary's going to share his perspective on the President's requested budget for 2014. Lastly, you'll hear from Rob Burton, who is here on behalf of NCMA, a valued strategic partner of Government Contracting Weekly, who will be giving us a preview of the upcoming NCMA World Congress this summer. Let's get right to it. Good morning and welcome to our segment where we have a government expert. And today we have with us somebody that's interesting because she's actually serving a lot of government contractors. Joyce Bosk, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here, Hilary.
And
thank
great.
you.
Joyce, I've founded and is the president of Boscobel Marketing Communications, which you founded in 1978.
I did.
So when you were very, very young.
I was very young. Thank you for mentioning that.
A child prodigy, actually. In fact, we want to make that quite clear to the audience.
Thank you.
But tell us about your client base and what it is that you're offering that's very different than a lot of the firms that are there. You're one of the top firms, one of the top PR
we
firms.
Are.
I think you're what, 14th largest now?
We are.
Yeah?
We are, and that's in total sales. But in terms of public sector, we're there's just only a few of us.
Yes, very few.
So Boscobel, of course, is what we call a pure play public relations firm, for public sector. So other firms do many varieties of clients, but we really, the air we breathe is all public sector. So we are all federal, state, and local government contractors that serve those markets.
So you really understand what it is that the government needs versus a firm that might just dip their toe in the water.
Yeah, we're not. We've been doing this part of the market, what we call business to government, which you're in as well, for about 20 years now. So 20 of our 30 plus years have been completely devoted, the core of our universe.
So you've really learned what it takes to influence a government decision maker.
Yes.
Yes. And so share with our audience, what are some of those key points for influencing that?
Yes, that is, well, one of the things you had asked about what differentiates Boscobel. So, in addition to being that traditional PR firm that we do the digital and the traditional, our niche is that we support contractors with something we call pre-RFP positioning and pre-RFP programs. So that's when the contractors bring us in early on, because as you know, early identification is critical.
Every aspect of winning, yes.
Absolutely. They have to get ahead of the curve on this. So they bring us in, and typically we're brought in by the business development and the capture people, and not typically by the marketing people, which is quite unusual. So we help them formulate a mini strategy, if you will. So unlike an overall corporate branding strategy for the organization, we do a small, tight, mini targeted program.
Focused on that RFP.
On that, exactly focused on that RFP. So it could involve, it has to involve content management, because as you know, content management is...
It's not just fluff. You're talking about real messaging on the content, how they'll actually go about winning.
Exactly.
That's very unique and it's different and it's very special. Yeah.
It's like a new form of currency.
Yes.
Definitely.
While there are a plethora of general marketing communications firms, Boscobel is one of the top largest firms in this region and uniquely one of just a select few, really very few firms that are focused totally on that federal market space. So Joyce, great having you with us.
Thank you so much.
And what I really liked was what you were saying about with a specific RFP. You're working with the BD people, you're working with the capture people, Drill down a little bit more for us in terms of the content. What are the sort of things you do for differentiators for those clients?
Right, okay. So the program itself that we established actually in 2002, so it's been 10 years, we've been doing this for 10 years, so we have a complete process. So basically we work with the business development and the capture people, but what's also very important is to bring the proposal people in. So whether they're in-house or whether they're external, those folks have to be brought in too as well. We discuss the RFP, we discuss, well, whether they're an incumbent or whether they're out to win it, which is a different strategy. And then we pool our resources together and we start to develop this mini plan that attacks the various parts of the criteria of the proposal.
While being consistent, of course, with the firm's messaging and positioning, because sometimes you see these teams going off and they're so esoteric and they want to come up with something that's creative and dynamic, but it has to be in line with what the firm does, so it fits with their track record and everything else.
It does.
Yeah.
It has to dovetail perfectly into what the company's brand is. But some of the actual materials to drill down are things like subject matter expert bylined articles that are strategically placed where you know that government decision maker is going to be reading. Or could be an interview such as this. It could be a white paper that is devoted. The important thing is that all of the content that's developed, it could be a conference, etc., all of the content that developed is then repurposed into more immediate things such as social media. It can be part of training programs. So it really has
an integrated program.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very important. So you're not doing it in isolation. You, as the leader, as the firm, you're setting a strategy, coaching them through the strategy, and integrating it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that helps them basically win.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So if you want to win, and if a government contractor is watching needs to win, they know where to go. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So obviously, if every vast government contractor with tremendous resources, tremendous experts, was brilliant at everything they did, then no one would ever lose their contract. Every single government contractor would remain being the incumbent. Obviously, that's your goal. Obviously, most contractors want that, but they don't. Joyce, they fail. They fail to win. They're sitting pretty, and they fail to have the contract renewed. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see?
There are. Well, of course, incumbentitis is a very serious issue.
Yeah, people becoming too comfortable and thinking that they have everything, yes.
Well, if you go back, Hilary, even 8 years ago, I would say that you would find a lot of people citing a recompete win rate of nearly 80%. Now, if you went back and surveyed those people today, you'd be looking at maybe 50% at best guess. That's a dramatic difference. And I think part of the problem, I think there's a couple things. One is that, as Einstein said, you keep doing the same things that you were doing and expecting a different result.
Definition of insanity.
Definition,
yes.
exactly. And so I think it's important for those firms just to take a moment and review everything that they're doing.
Because the marketplace has changed so dramatically?
The marketplace has changed.
Yes.
The marketplace has changed so much. And I think that they would value tremendously third-party research, of course, which I know that you folks do a wonderful job on at
third-party
AOQC.
assessments where you have anybody, or Key Solutions, or you need to have someone come in and look and take a third-party look.
Absolutely.
Don't drink your own bathwater, as we always say.
Exactly.
Or bathwater, as people say.
Exactly, bathwater. But those third-party assessments are absolutely critical, and they become part of our ability to help them create a plan for going forward and capturing, that win.
So you're very realistic about your strengths and weaknesses.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think the other thing, particularly that incumbents are perhaps missing the boat on, is getting involved a little bit earlier. The people that want your contract are starting early.
And then that has historically always been true, but you're saying more so today than ever before.
I think so.
Yes.
I think incumbents are waiting a little too long to really really fully go after this contract. Where all the competition is chomping at the bits because, as you know, there are fewer RFPs.
Everybody's hungry.
Everybody's hungry, and so they're coming. So you've got to start earlier, or at least as early as they do with your, particularly with your third-party assessments. You've got to get beyond your own people. You can't work in a vacuum.
And I've also thought internally with one's own people, there are those political considerations. You don't want to say to your boss, you're taking us down the wrong route. This wasn't right in the first place. And there's somebody in the room, it's their baby, the messaging originally. So you have
the
to
client loves us.
Oh, the client, but they have to be you have to be politically correct internally. You need somebody externally to say those things.
Exactly.
And also, Joyce, what about the government contractors that you see that do lose, and then they protest. It used to be very negative to
Yes,
do
it
that, and
did.
it's somewhat de rigueur nowadays. And are you working with
Yes.
any companies that are doing that?
Yes, we're not working with any companies right now that are that are protesting. No, but I do agree. I think the sort of the era of protest started around Alliant. That's when I started to view the first, massive protest was that particular contract, and it's been going on ever since.
And it doesn't have the negative connotation anymore. And actually, it's just like a strategy to keep your people employed. Well, protest and just hold on to them so you have that contract.
You have
or
the
something.
extra, yeah. You have the extra days.
Yes.
Exactly. But government's going to get smarter about that. They're going to start delivering opportunities that are under 10 million, and they're going to start reframing things so that they can help protect themselves and their programs from so many unwarranted protests.
Yes. As all of our frequent viewers know, the force behind Government Contracting Weekly is Key Solutions, and Key Solutions provides strategy, capture and proposal support services to any government contractor that really wants to win a contract. So Joyce is with us today, and Joyce has focused on a different aspect of the must-wins for government contractors. And you've talked, Joyce, which I love actually, is about the government contractors should have a four-legged stool and make sure that they are doing everything in each one of those arenas. So maybe just expand upon that for us.
Surely. My definition of the four-legged stool is, of course, they have to have a superior business development and capture team. That goes without saying. They have to have a strong and competent internal communications team, whatever the size of that is, because it varies today. They have to have a very an excellent proposal team, whether that is internal or whether it is external, such as an organization like AOC Key Solutions. But the fourth part is that they have to have an organization such as ours, where Bosco Bell, where we help them pre-position the marketplace for that opportunity. So we support that whole, a year in advance of the opportunity, early on identification, and what do we want to tell the market about the organization and their capabilities, their quals, and their past performance, to get the government comfortable and confident that this team is the right team.
Because most of the members of our audience may not be aware, but they say that about 73% of everything you ever read in the media was taken to the media by a PR firm somewhere. So what you're talking about is the average person in the marketplace has no clue about this. You're talking about positioning so the government official is receptive for what everybody else in the company is then doing.
Absolutely.
Which is basically you're playing a lead role. Absolutely.
So, and we not only market to the DC market, we also market to the local market that opportunity is being driven from. And
which may not be here,
important.
maybe somewhere else in the United States.
Absolutely.
And what about the role, we really haven't had anybody on the show that's focused on social media. You have integrated social media brilliantly, and you're on the cusp of social media. How should government contractors be utilizing social media in ways that you see that they're not?
Yeah, we really have embraced it completely. So there's several ways that they can do it, and they can do it quite easily. We talked earlier about content management and being able to do white papers and bylined articles. All of those can so easily be repurposed into mini blogs or mini tweets or those kinds of things.
Leveraged.
And they all point, like all roads are pointing to Rome, so to speak. Everything is kind of connected. So you don't have to recreate social media content.
You leverage the material that you have. Yeah.
It's already there.
Yes.
It's already there. You just, you can retweet other things that are very, very valuable. So, the thing I find really fascinating about social media is if you look at the research, government is almost like become an early adopter of social media.
Which is not what we'd all expect. We always think of the government as being antiquated, but it's not.
Isn't it surprising?
Yeah, it is. I think it's interesting to know. I think it's a good sign for the government, actually. Yeah.
I think it really is. And so, government is really embracing social media.
And they're reading it, so that's why they have to do what you're saying.
But it also means that contractors now have to move
get
forward.
On board. Yes.
I think they've been a little reticent about getting on board.
And that's a key to winning, which we appreciate because we haven't heard it before. So now that you know, and Joyce, thank you so much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure to be here with you, Hilary.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Joyce Lois Bosk has given us some valuable insights into channeling your organization's communications in support of future opportunities. But how can you get a head start on knowing where those future opportunities lie? To answer that question, Gary Loyd of Centurion Research Solutions and his team have drilled down on the requested 2014 budget, looking for the very best answers. After Gary, we will hear from Rob Burton representing NCMA. Good morning and welcome to our segment where we have an expert, and one of our now regular experts, Gary Loyd, the CEO of Centurion Research Solutions. Pleasure, Gary.
Good to be here. Thank you.
As always, yeah. And Gary actually and Centurion have undertaken quite extensive analysis of the fiscal 2014 President's request budget. So I'd love for you, Gary, to share with our audience, what are some key takeaways that you've seen from looking at it in your analysis already?
Well, we talked a little bit about this last month, actually.
Yeah.
And, I'd like to first start off with the priorities. So the President's priorities: create jobs for America. That's a top priority. Invest in high-tech manufacturing. 15 new hubs around the country.
And what kind of areas of the country are they? Are they spread all over?
They'll be spread all over the country,
Yeah.
modeled after the one in Ohio.
Oh, right, yeah, which has been quite a success.
Right,
Yeah?
very successful. Cut the deficit.
Yeah.
So we know that's a big priority. And STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Get kids on the good path for college or a job. Protect the U.S. infrastructure, another great area for opportunities for government contractors. When you look at the budget, it's 1.24 trillion budget request.
Still a nice size for government contractors.
One of the largest pools of business in the world.
Anywhere, yes.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
But even
bigger
though,
than most countries.
In
Yes.
most countries, exactly.
Yeah.
1.27% decrease over last year's or 2013 continuing resolution. Still, large pool of money. When you look at that, though, Centurion broke down the budget and looked at those pockets of opportunities. One of them in IT.
Yeah.
So in federal IT, the budget there would be $82 billion. That's over $76 billion for non-classified work.
And that's an increase from last year.
And that is a 0.08. Very good. That's a 0.08 increase over last year. That includes about $58 billion, a little over $58 billion for steady state, O&M kinds of things, and then another $17.9 billion for DME, or new investment.
So if our members of our audience are listening to you now, Gary, what should they be thinking particularly in terms of the technology budget? Northern Virginia, a lot of technology companies here, a lot of their focus.
Well, I think, there are great opportunities, not only, in some key agencies, and I'm going to touch on that. The other area, when you look at the intelligence budget, so in the intelligence budget is over $70 billion. $50 billion of that will go to federal contractors. I think that's really important to say. And then you have the Pentagon's classified budget, which is over $65 billion. But when you break it down and you look at what are some key agencies,
key places.
Yeah, key places of where opportunities exist, whether the budget has gone down or up, that government contractors could pursue. And of course, we all know HHS, hot opportunity, great agency. Their budget is up $6.3 billion.
Yes, Health and Human Services always, yes.
8.7% increase.
Healthcare industry just in general, and a lot of that I think is also the migration to technology. We've talked a lot on the show about big data and migration.
Exactly. VA, $2.2 billion, up $2.2 billion. DOD is up $1.2 billion.
Which is actually surprising because that wasn't expected.
And so that's only a 0.2% increase, but
it's
up.
still an increase.
Still
That's better. Yeah.
DHS is down $12 billion. Now, that would say,
Department of Homeland Security.
21% decrease, but there are some opportunities there. PACS, Eagle 2. Eagle 2 was just awarded 15 contractors. GSA is up $1.1 billion. So there are some key opportunities in agencies. Even if the budgets are down, there are still opportunities for government contractors to pursue. Sequestration, things have been delayed. Now, to the credit of government agencies are finding other ways to meet the mandates for those reduction in those cuts.
So how should our contracting audience look at what the agencies are doing?
Well, the one thing they should do is absolutely stay closer to that government client. Understand their budget pressures, understand the actions that they are taking, but most importantly, understand how they can continue to provide value to that government customer to help them realize and achieve their mission.
So, as you know, for those frequent viewers that we have, Gary Loyd, the President and CEO of Centurion Research Solutions, has given us a big picture overview of where the at least requested budget for 2014 is going. But now, Gary, let's have a little drill down, if you will.
Sure.
I know that Centurion is great at your analysis, and you do a lot of deep diving for your clients.
We do. Yes, we do. Well, you know, one of the things we're trying to do is provide some level of predictability in this uncertain market.
Which is wonderful, because we need some. Please, thank you.
And our clients, when you look at our clients, they're realigning their business. They're realigning their resources. They're looking to reduce costs. That's key. They're looking to improve and strengthen their capabilities, provide more value to their government customers, get closer to their government customers, and really understand their issues and the budget pressures that they're under.
And there's so much data out there. What can you do with it? And that's really what you do, isn't it? You take all this data and you actually make commentary and analysis as what you can do.
That's exactly what we do. And you know, actionable insight.
Yes.
Relevant information, relevant opportunities, analytics. What we're finding, our clients, when they rely on Centurion information to make fact-based decisions, what it does, they're making better decisions.
And they're getting some degree of predictability too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With some level of predictability. And we see across the board with our clients, they're absolutely putting more discipline, instilling more discipline in that decision-making process.
Because they can, with your data,
Because they can, and they're making those fact-based decisions. But you know, let me talk a little bit about some of the opportunities we see that are
our audience loves that. They love opportunities.
Love opportunities, and we like to provide opportunities. When you know, we know healthcare IT is a hot market. We know VA is a top priority, not only for the country, but for the president, and we just need to do, it's the right thing to do for our warfighters. Cybersecurity, very hot market. Right now, the IT budget for cybersecurity is $13.9 billion.
Which has grown even since last year again.
Grown since last year, and it makes up 16% of the IT budget request this year going into 2014. ISR, very hot. Space, very hot. You know, and then when you look at those different agencies, and we do have some charts that you can find on our website, centurionresearch.com, and I'm sure at some point in time they'll be aired on Government Contracting Weekly. But in HHS, CIOCS, it's a $10 billion opportunity, 10-year IDIQ. You know, one thing I want to mention to the audience, IDIQs and GWACs are key in the future. What I think we'll begin to see is the number of pre-solicitations are going to drop down because of the IDIQs, because of the GWACs. So pursuing
But that's really
deals,
just because of the procurement models in place, not because of the budget going down.
Not because of the budget going down. Because of the budget going down, what we're seeing is much more competitive.
And rigor, which is where they need your analysis.
Rigor, discipline, but you're competing for fewer dollars, more competitors.
Yes.
It's very key.
Perfect. So Gary, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Just in case you're wondering, what is the most beneficial event you should attend this summer as a government contractor? You should be in Nashville in July 21st through 24th at their World Congress. And I'm delighted to have with me this morning Rob Burton. Rob is an NCMA board member. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you very much, Hilary. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to have you with me this morning. I think what's great to hear from Rob about is actually a little bit about the background that you bring, because working with NCMA, you've been on the government side and I think about 7 years OFPP?
Well, it was a total of 30-some years in the federal government.
Oh, really?
But I was
Okay, I
at the
didn't realize
Office of
that.
Federal Procurement for 7 years.
Yes.
And then I retired, and I'm now with the Venable Law Firm, but I've been very involved in NCMA for over 20 years.
So tell our audience who may not be as familiar with NCMA, shame on you, but tell our audience about what you see as the real value for a government contractor of NCMA, and then also, of course, for the procurement community in the government.
Well, there are very few opportunities anymore. As you know, Hilary, a lot of government people can't go to conferences anymore. There's a real chilling effect as far as communication between government and industry. And what the World Congress does, it brings about 1,500 acquisition professionals together in one spot with over 140 training seminars. And it gives an opportunity for networking between government and private sector acquisition professionals. So it's quite a great opportunity for people from both the private sector and the government to come together. And I think the training is outstanding. And as a matter of fact, it's been approved by the federal government, by OPM, as an official training program that allows federal employees to attend.
So they're actually getting some really content benefit. I remember last year it was in Boston, and it's back-to-back. It's not like a party time. This is back-to-back sessions on technical issues and issues of value to both.
It is, and NCMA is the premier trade association for government contracting professionals in the world. And the World Congress is really the premier event that NCMA sponsors every year.
Mm-hmm. And what about in Nashville this year? What are you looking forward to? I know that you're on a panel there as well.
Well, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it, Hilary. I'm going to be moderating a panel.
With Angela Stiles on it from Crowell & Mooring, who's one of the greatest guests we've actually had on.
And she was the administrator at the Office of Federal Procurement Policy when I was her deputy. And as a matter of fact, she brought me into that office. And I'm going to be moderating a panel with former OFPP administrators.
Oh, that's going to be fascinating.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of fun because some of these folks go back 20 years. Some of these folks will be going back 20 years. And I'm going to talk to them, Hilary, about the trends in federal procurement. What do they see has changed over the last 20 years? Mm-hmm. What for the better, what for the worse? And I think it's a very difficult time to be a government contractor.
No, it is.
And
challenging.
It's very challenging. That's one of the things I'm going to talk about is what are the challenges that you folks see facing the government contracting community and government contractors in particular right now.
And I would think, like Angela, who was at OFPP and is now heading the government contracts practice at Crowell & Mooring, they have a global perspective. Each one of them is doing different things now. So they don't just have from their role, they have their entire perspective as well.
Exactly.
And completely different. So what kind of roles do each of them have?
Well, some are in law firms, some of them are academics at, for example, at Harvard University, and some are consultants to the federal government now. Some are with corporations in compliance roles. They're all very impressive people. And,
as are you, and I'm glad that you joined us this morning.
Nice.
And I think if you want to see what's going on and also some of the predictions, Angela Stiles is one of the best people we had on the show in terms of predicting the future. I'm sure that will happen on the panel. Thank you for coming in, Rob, and thank you for sharing with us.
Hilary, thank you very much for having me.
That's it for this week's edition of Government Contracting Weekly. Our thanks goes out to Joyce Bosk of Bosco Bell, Gary Loyd of Centurion Research Solutions, and Rob Burton on behalf of NCMA. Our thanks also goes out to you, our viewers, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
You've been watching Government Contracting Weekly, sponsored each week by AOC Key Solutions Incorporated. Government Contracting Weekly is the only television program devoted exclusively to the competitive and dynamic world of government contracting. For additional information, comments, questions, or suggestions, please write us at governmentcontractingweekly.com.